It always feels good to press play on a motivational video. You sit back, the music builds. A powerful voice tells you that greatness is inside you. And for a moment, your chest rises with hope. You imagine the version of yourself who is disciplined, successful, admired, and free. And for that short period of time, you feel like change is already happening. The comfort of motivation is addictive because it offers you a shortcut to feeling progress without actually doing anything. You don't have to sweat, you don't have to fail, you don't have to face rejection. You only need to listen. It is safe, easy, and instantly rewarding. But that comfort is an illusion. Because as soon as the video ends, nothing in your life has changed. The dirty dishes are still in the sink. The bills are still due. The extra weight is still on your body. The business idea is still only in your head. Motivation gave you the emotional high of progress, but not the reality of it. It's like eating candy when you're starving. It tricks your body into feeling full while giving you nothing that lasts. The truth is, motivation works like entertainment. It fills your time, it captures your attention, it gives you a burst of emotion. But just like a good movie, when it's over, you're back in the same life as before. And because it feels so good in the moment, you go back for more. You don't just watch one motivational video. You watch another and then another until hours slip by. You tell yourself you're learning, you're preparing, you're feeding your mind. But really, you're hiding. You're escaping into comfort while convincing yourself you're moving forward. Think about it. How many times have you felt unstoppable after watching a speech, only to realize days later that nothing changed? You promised yourself you would wake up early, start that project, hit the gym, or finally cut out the bad habit. But the fire burned out as quickly as it was lit. The comfort of motivation is designed that way. It's a temporary high like caffeine or sugar, and just like any high, you crash. And when you crash, you look for another hit, another speech, another quote, another book, until the cycle becomes endless. This is why the self-help industry thrives. It doesn't need you to succeed. It only needs you to keep watching, keep buying, and keep believing that the next video, the next book, the next seminar will finally flip the switch. But if it really worked the way they promise, you wouldn't need the next one. You would already be too busy living your new life to come back. The comfort of motivation keeps you as a customer, not as a success story. And here's the part that hurts. Most of us know this deep down. We know that nothing will change unless we act. We know that discipline, work, and persistence are the real ingredients of growth. But we still choose the comfort. Because action is painful. It demands effort. It demands sacrifice. It demands facing your weaknesses, not hiding from them. Motivation tells you that you're already great. Action forces you to face the fact that right now, you are not. That's why so many people stay stuck in the comfort zone of motivation. It's easier to feel inspired than to be exhausted. It's easier to imagine success than to sweat for it. It's easier to listen to someone else talk about greatness than to put yourself through the struggle required to reach it. Comfort is always tempting and pain is always avoided. But nothing changes in comfort. Everything changes in pain. This is why your life can be filled with motivational quotes, posters, and playlists, and still look exactly the same. Comfort is pleasant. Pain is productive. And until you learn to stop seeking the comfort of motivation and start embracing the pain of real action, your dreams will remain only that, dreams. This isn't about destroying hope. Hope matters, but hope without work is just fantasy. Motivation without action is just noise. You don't need another speech. You need to stop hiding in the comfort of words and start facing the pain of reality. Because that pain is where growth happens. And that pain is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. The comfort of motivation works like a warm blanket on a cold night. It wraps you in a feeling of safety. It whispers that you are capable, that greatness is waiting, that your potential is limitless. And who doesn't want to hear that? Who doesn't want to believe that the life they dream about is just around the corner? But here's the hidden cost. While you're wrapped in that comfort, time is passing. Weeks turn into months, months turn into years. And the life you wanted is still out of reach because comfort kept you from moving. Think about how many people spend years consuming motivational content without ever putting it into practice. They read the same type of self-help books, they underline quotes, they share inspiring posts online. But if you look closely, their life hasn't changed. They are in the same job, the same situation, the same cycle of frustration, and yet they keep reaching for more content because it feels like they're doing something. That's the trap, the illusion of progress. Motivation feels like movement, but it is stillness disguised. Real action, on the other hand, feels completely different. It doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel inspiring. In fact, it often feels boring, repetitive, painful, and unrewarding in the beginning. Going to the gym when your body aches doesn't feel like motivation. Sitting down to write when you don't feel inspired doesn't feel exciting. Making the first awkward calls for a new business doesn't feel like greatness. It feels uncomfortable, it feels heavy, and it feels far from the glamorous picture motivation paints. That's why most people avoid it. And this is exactly how gurus and motivational creators profit. They understand human psychology. They know you want comfort, not discomfort. So they design their speeches to feed that craving. They tell you that listening is enough. They give you the dopamine hit of success without requiring the sweat. And once you start depending on that feeling, they have you hooked. Every view, every click, every book purchase is profit. But none of it is progress for you. It's the same cycle you see in other industries built on dreams. Fitness companies know most customers won't stick with the workout plan, but they'll keep buying supplements and memberships. Diet programs know most people will quit, but they'll keep paying for the hope of change. Motivational gurus are no different. They know most of their audience will stay stuck, but they'll keep coming back for the next dose of inspiration. The business of motivation is not built on your success. It's built on your continued struggle. Here's the cruel irony. When you finally do take action, it often feels worse than doing nothing. Why? Because reality exposes how unprepared you are. Your muscles ache. Your writing looks terrible. Your first attempts at a skill are clumsy and embarrassing. Action shines a light on your weaknesses, while motivation tells you to ignore them. That's why most people retreat back to comfort. It's easier to stay inspired than to stay disciplined. But the very pain that scares people away is the exact place where transformation begins. Growth doesn't come from comfort. Growth comes from the moments where you push past the boredom, the discomfort, and the embarrassment. Success is not built in the 5 minutes you feel inspired by a speech. It's built in the countless hours you don't feel inspired at all, but you still keep going. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. Because it's not comfortable, it's not glamorous, and it doesn't sell. The reason the self-help industry avoids this truth is simple. Pain doesn't sell, comfort does. Nobody wants to pay to hear that progress is slow, difficult, and often lonely. Nobody wants to hear that success requires failing over and over again. People want shortcuts. They want hacks. They want quick fixes. So gurus feed them what they want, and in return, they profit from people staying stuck. If you look closely, you'll notice how the language of motivation is always vague. Unlock your potential. Step into your greatness. Believe in yourself. These are powerful words, but they mean nothing if they don't lead to specific action. It's intentional. Vagueness feels inspiring to everyone, but it demands nothing from anyone. It allows you to keep watching without ever doing. Action, on the other hand, is specific. Wake up at 5. Go for the run. Start the business. Save the money. Action leaves no room for comfort, and that's why it's avoided both by audiences and by those who profit from their attention. So the cycle repeats. People consume comfort, avoid pain, and wonder why nothing changes. They blame themselves, thinking maybe they just need more motivation, and once again they click play on another video, keeping the system alive. The comfort of motivation versus the pain of real action is not just a personal struggle. It's a business model. One side feels good but changes nothing. The other side feels terrible but builds everything. And until you choose the painful side, your life will stay the same. The comfort of motivation is addictive for a reason. Human beings are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Thousands of years ago, this instinct kept us alive. We avoided dangerous situations and sought food, warmth, and safety. But in today's world, that same wiring is working against us. Instead of protecting us from predators, it protects us from discomfort. It pushes us toward anything that feels good and away from anything that feels hard. And that's why motivational content is so powerful. It hijacks that ancient instinct. It gives you the reward without the risk, the pleasure without the pain, the feeling of progress without the price of progress. When you sit back and watch a motivational video, your brain rewards you. Dopamine is released. You feel uplifted, excited, even proud. You can almost see your future self living the dream. But your brain doesn't know the difference between real progress and imagined progress. To your mind, the feeling of moving forward is enough, even if you're standing still. That's why people get stuck consuming more and more. The brain craves that hit again and again. It's a drug. And like any drug, the more you take, the less effect it has, which makes you chase even more. On the other hand, the pain of real action triggers the opposite response. Your brain doesn't flood you with dopamine when you drag yourself out of bed early. It doesn't reward you when you face rejection, struggle through learning, or sit in silence working on something tedious. In fact, it punishes you with stress, frustration, and discomfort. That's why action feels so unappealing compared to motivation. Your brain is screaming for comfort, and every instinct in you tells you to quit. But here's the paradox. What feels painful now becomes rewarding later. And what feels comfortable now becomes painful later. Watching endless motivational content feels good in the moment, but years down the road it leads to regret, frustration, and wasted time. Taking real action feels hard in the beginning, but years later it creates strength, results, and freedom. Comfort delivers short-term pleasure with long-term pain. Action delivers short-term pain with long-term reward. The choice is always there, but most people keep choosing comfort because the reward of action is too far away, while the comfort of motivation is instant. This is where the self-help industry thrives. They don't just sell you motivation, they sell you relief from guilt. Every time you watch, you feel like you're doing something. You silence that voice inside you that says you're wasting time. You tell yourself, at least I'm learning, at least I'm preparing. But the truth is, preparation without execution is just procrastination in disguise. And the people selling you that comfort know it. They build their careers on your avoidance of pain. The problem is not that motivation exists. The problem is how it's consumed. Instead of being a spark to push you into action, it becomes a substitute for action. It becomes a safe place to hide. And once you hide there long enough, you start to believe that the hiding is part of the journey. That's why people can spend 10 years in the self-help world and have nothing to show for it. The comfort convinces them they're growing when in reality they're just stuck. To break out of that trap, you need to rewire your relationship with pain. You have to understand that discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the signal that you're growing. Pain is not punishment. It's the price of entry into a better life. Every skill worth having is built on hours of frustration. Every strong body is built on days of soreness. Every business is built on countless failures before success. Nobody tells you this in the motivational videos because it doesn't sell. But it's the truth. The painful path is not glamorous, but it's real. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop searching for comfort and start searching for challenges. Because the people who change their lives are not the ones who consume the most motivation. They are the ones who get uncomfortable the most often. They are the ones who take action when it feels pointless, boring, or even hopeless. They are the ones who understand that pain is temporary, but regret is permanent. The comfort of motivation is like living in a dream. It feels good, but when you wake up, nothing has changed. The pain of action is like living in reality. It feels harsh, but when you look back, everything has changed. The choice between the two is not easy, but it's simple. One gives you stories to tell, the other gives you results to show. One gives you comfort today, the other gives you freedom tomorrow. This is the message you won't hear from the gurus. They can't afford to tell you the truth. Because if you truly embrace the pain of action, you wouldn't need them anymore. You wouldn't be a customer. You would be too busy living your life to sit around watching theirs. And that's the last thing they want. That's why they sell comfort disguised as courage and hope disguised as help. The question is, how much longer are you willing to stay comfortable? How much longer will you trade years of your life for a few minutes of inspiration? How much longer will you let comfort distract you from the pain that could actually change you? At some point, you have to decide. Do you want the short-lived comfort of motivation or the lasting results of real action? The truth is, the comfort of motivation will always be tempting. It will always be easier to press play than to take the first step. It will always feel safer to imagine yourself succeeding than to face the reality of failing. But if you've been stuck in that cycle long enough, you already know the cost. You know what it feels like to waste another year, to make the same promises to yourself, to keep saying tomorrow until tomorrow turns into next year. You know the emptiness that comes after the motivation wears off, and deep down you know the truth. Comfort isn't changing anything. The pain of real action, on the other hand, is where the story actually begins. It doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't feel exciting. Most of the time, it feels like a struggle no one else sees. It's dragging yourself out of bed when you'd rather sleep. It's failing in silence while everyone else seems to be ahead. It's sacrificing comfort today for a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. It's uncomfortable, it's heavy, and sometimes it feels like it's not working at all. But this is the only path that leads anywhere real. Every great achievement you admire was built on this hidden pain. Athletes don't become champions because they watched a motivational video. They became champions because they pushed through endless practices that nobody applauded. Writers don't publish books because they felt inspired. They sat in the discomfort of blank pages, bad drafts, and constant self-doubt. Entrepreneurs don't build companies because they believed in themselves. They endured rejection, loss, and failure until they finally broke through. The difference between them and everyone else is not that they were more motivated. It's that they were more willing to face pain. And here's what the self-help industry doesn't tell you. Once you accept pain as part of the process, it stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling like progress. Every sore muscle becomes proof you're growing stronger. Every rejection becomes evidence you're still moving. Every failure becomes a stepping stone instead of a wall. Pain doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It becomes fuel instead of fear. That's the shift that changes everything. But you will never experience that shift if you keep hiding in the comfort of motivation. You'll never feel the strength that comes from pushing past your limits. You'll never taste the reward that comes after years of sacrifice. You'll only keep watching, keep waiting, and keep wondering why nothing changes. That's the tragedy of staying comfortable. It robs you of the life you could have lived. This is why Unhyped exists. To remind you that the path forward is not in another video, another speech, or another empty promise. The path forward is in the pain you've been avoiding. The gym you skip, the work you postpone, the dream you delay. Those are the places where your real life is waiting. Not in the comfort of someone else's words, but in the discomfort of your own effort. So the choice is in front of you, right now. You can keep seeking comfort, keep pressing play, and keep chasing the high of motivation. Or you can step into the pain of real action. The pain that hurts now but pays later. One choice gives you a fantasy. The other gives you a future. One keeps you stuck in the same cycle. The other sets you free. It won't be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. But if you've been searching for change, if you've been waiting for a sign, if you've been hoping for the truth, this is it. Stop hiding. Stop waiting. Stop wasting time. Embrace the pain because the pain is proof you're alive. The pain is proof you're growing. And the pain is the only path to something real. And if you need a reminder, come back here. Not for comfort, but for truth. That's what we do here at Unhyped. We cut through the noise, expose the lies, and remind you of the reality most people run from. Because you don't need more hype. You need honesty. You don't need another dream. You need discipline. You don't need comfort. You need courage, so decide. Will you stay where you are, wrapped in the comfort of motivation? Or will you step into the pain of real action and finally build the life you've been pretending to chase? The choice is yours. And the clock is already ticking.